Hey, what's up? This is Jasmine, and you're listening to Ambiance Podcast.
What up, people? Welcome to Ambiance Podcast. Sitting to the right of me, I got Jasmine Collier.
Hey.
She is an artist manager for Esta and Joyce Wrice. And also, she handles brand partnerships with Subtle, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yes,
I mentioned this to you off camera, but everybody kind of talks about how you're a pretty well-respected person in your industry. And it's an honor to have you on because it seems like everybody you're around kind of likes you. Why do you think it is that you developed that type of reputation for yourself?
Well, first off, thank you. I appreciate that. That's really kind. I don't know, but I definitely, I was mentioning to you, I definitely try to keep good relationships with people and just like have a good working experience. So I want someone to, enjoy our time working together, want to continue working, and just show mutual respect.
Yeah, so you're more of like a people person, right?
I feel like I am. There's times where I'm not, especially now that I'm older. I feel like sometimes I want to be alone, but for the most part, yeah. Like, I love being around people. I love, like, feeling other people's energy, and, yeah.
Have you always been like that?
Kind of, yeah. I think even, like, as a kid, my parents would tell me stories about me just like walking around the neighborhood by myself and like knocking on a random person's door and just being like, hey, like, do you have kids that I could play with? And then they're like, okay. And then my parents would be looking for me and then find me in someone's backyard just like playing. I've always liked to like talk to strangers and random people and like just meet new people.
Do you think kids are still like that nowadays? Like where they go door to door? Well, I mean, pre-COVID, obviously.
No, they're not. And I was talking about that with a friend recently. Like, I just loved the part of my childhood where you would just go outside and like find kids to play with.
Yeah.
And like now it's like dead in all the neighborhoods because everyone's just like video games and all these things. And I don't know, I would get really creative outside. Mm-hmm. Anything that I could do with other kids, but it's just so different.
Yeah, and it sucks that it's not like that anymore because you try so much new things and like meet so many new people like when you're at that age, and it's a special dynamic that is kind of like a world of its own, and it seems like you said it's kind of like dying off, which is pretty sad.
It is, and I also feel like it affects our social skills, and I've noticed that because I mean, not everyone is outgoing, but just growing up, I feel like kids would just talk and play and be like, adventurous. And now some kids, it's so difficult to communicate and they just feel really like socially uncomfortable or awkward.
Yeah.
So
I wonder what impact that's going to have on these kids when they're like our age, you know what I mean? Like when they're like 20s and 30s and things like that. I wonder how it's going to impact them. I
mean, I feel, I'm not exactly sure how old you are, but I feel like our generation, like just like right after that was really when, because for me, I know like cell phones and like social media and stuff, it got introduced in like middle school, high school, and then like college really for like social media. So I just feel like the generation right after is probably the one who like got it in like, elementary or whatever. And I feel like those are the kids that are kind of affected, and I've already kind of noticed that like the communication is just a little off. Because
to speak on our generation, like it already affects us a lot. You know what I mean? Like it affects me, it affects a lot of other people just being on social media all the time, being on your phone all the time. So imagine a whole life of that.
Exactly.
Times like
exactly bunch. And then in school, like I just feel like the tangible textbook and all those things, it's just, I don't know, just nothing can really change that compared to that. But now, like, iPads and laptops and things in the school, it's just, I don't know.
It's also advanced.
Very, yeah.
Yeah, so since we're on the topic of kids, when you were in your adolescent years as a child, did you always want to work in the music industry or?
No, but I will say that I was always, like, fascinated with the entertainment industry. Like, I would ask my parents to take me to LA a lot, and I would always want to go to like different locations that I would see in music videos or in films, and I was just really fascinated with pop culture and entertainment. But I always wanted to do different things. I wanted to be a teacher at one point. And then, like, once I started getting older, I was like, okay, I want to be a journalist. And that's what I went to school for, actually.
Right. So you said that you went to Cal State Fullerton, right? And you studied broadcasting and journalism?
Yes.
Okay. So I mentioned to you these earlier. I stalked your LinkedIn. So I saw that you had a number of interns. You had a number of internships at Cal State Fullerton. So during that time, did you kind of figure out like what you did and didn't like with having so many different roles?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of crazy because I went to Cal State Fullerton from 2009 to 2014. I did 5 years because I took a semester off, and I took the first 2 years to be undeclared and trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and then I finally declared to be like a communications broadcast journalism major. And when I first started, I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. Like, I wanted to be an entertainment journalist specifically. But once I started, even like the classes that we had where we would practice the different roles, like, so being operating the camera, being a producer, being on camera, like all the different things, I started realizing, oh, this is not like it for me. And then once I started doing the internships, I was realizing even more. I was just like, something about this is not like fulfilling me. But my going to college was also always something that there was like no other option. I was just like, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna finish. And like, that's also kind of how it was, you know, not pushed on me, but like my parents wanted that as well. So even though I was realizing I didn't want to do it anymore, I was like, I'm gonna finish and, you know, finish all my classes for the major that I selected.
Right. So what like role was it, or what moment in specific drove you to want to work in the music industry while you were in college?
Actually, nothing. I still didn't think about it when I was in college. So what happened was I graduated from Cal State Fullerton with the broadcast journalism degree. And like a month after graduating, I moved to Tokyo.
Oh, you moved to Tokyo?
Yeah, and I lived there, and I was like, I'm going to be a stylist. Like, it was just so different. But I actually interned as a stylist for a while I was in college, so I was like doing both. Because like I said, I already started noticing, I don't think I want to do this anymore. So then I started interning as a stylist when I was still trying to finish the broadcast journalism degree. And yeah, I was like, okay, yep, I'm going to be a stylist. And I was like, I'm going to move to Tokyo where my mom is Japanese. So I was like, yeah, I have citizenship. I'm going to move there. I'm going to be a stylist. And I'm going to like live here for at least 10 years. That's what I was thinking.
That's a big life change after college to take.
Yeah. And I was like so confident about it. And I feel like that's a testament to just like when you're so young, like things can consistently change and like you're going to keep changing your mind.
Yeah.
So I went there and I was like, yeah. And still then music was not a thing. Like I was just like, I'm gonna be a stylist. And then going there, like many things happened, and I realized I didn't want to be a stylist. I realized I didn't want to live there anymore. And then I came back after a year.
Okay.
And that's when I started.
Things started happening in the music industry for you.
Yes.
I think that's really dope to hear, though, that you didn't have it all figured out when you were in college and like right when you graduated, because I think a lot of kids can relate to that, or not kids, but a lot of people can relate to that when they're in college, because there's this idea like pushed on people when you're in college that, oh, you need to like know what you're going to do after you graduate.
Yeah.
Or there's all these societal pressures for what you're going to be like later in life. And I can relate to that as well. It's like I was in college, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to be or what I wanted to do.
Right.
And another kind of bouncing off that into like social media makes you think that you need to have it all figured out because your peers have it all figured out, supposedly, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I still feel affected by technology and social media now, but like not nearly as much as like, you know, kids younger than me, because at that time, like even when I lived in Japan, there was Instagram, but it was just still like really light. Like there was no stories.
What was it, like 2014 or 15?
Yeah, 2014. It was just, I don't know, it was just like people were like, you know, these are cool pictures. It wasn't like, at least in my circle or like my community, what I was viewing every day, it wasn't like, you know, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So I didn't feel like like a pressure, like a comparison type of thing from social media at that time. But yeah, I can see how that can really affect people, and I agree. It's confusing. Like, you go from high school and then you get thrown into this whole system of trying to figure out what you're gonna do for the rest of your life, and then like just not even knowing if you're gonna like that, and like committing to studying for it for a specific amount of time. So
and it's like, what if you choose the wrong thing? Because people sometimes choose that wrong career that they end up like working for 30 or 40 years, you know?
Exactly. And that's why I feel like it's good, like, you know, even like going the community college route and figuring it out and saving money, or like taking a year off, or like there's so many things. And even now people I meet, like, they didn't even go, but they just kind of like traveled, or, you know, just trying to figure out who they are to kind of figure out what they want to do.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like it's as needed as I used to think.
Yeah, and to add on to that, we talked a little bit about this off camera. Everybody's purpose and journey is going to be different. Like, you don't have to traditionally finish in 4 years. Like you said, like, your journey can be whatever you make it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I really think that everyone has like a different path. And because I think I'm a Leo, and I'm just very, I don't know, I kind of feel like I'm OCD in some ways. I was just like, everything has to be so specific. So I thought, you know, I was really bummed that I didn't graduate in 4 years. I was like bummed that I didn't get like my dream job right out of college, or like already have it promised, you know, before graduating. I was like really trying to follow a plan. And then, you know, I think at times you do start to compare to other people, but like I was saying, like, I really do feel like everyone has a different path. So even if, for example, I'm 29 and then I'm seeing someone who's 23 and they have my dream job already, like, it doesn't necessarily mean like I'm not on the right track, or like they did something significantly better than me. It's just like different paths. And
yes,
I feel like everyone ends up getting to the place that they need to be, you know?
100%. Very well said. And I can relate to that too. I told you this before. I used to play football. And so for so long, I was like trying to go to the NFL. I was trying to make it in that sport. You know what I mean? And then once I graduated college, it's just like, all right, what are these other muscles that I can flex? And what other love and passion can I find? And I found this, but obviously wasn't able to do this in my earlier years. So it's like somebody who's at a higher level than me, it's because maybe they started earlier, you know what I mean? Or they had their own journey, and that's okay. You know what I mean? I could take my journey and just end up where I want to be, you know?
Yeah. And even like with comparing, like, you never know what that person had to go through to get there, or like even what they're going through in that moment. Mm-hmm. There's so many times where I thought like I wanted someone else's lifestyle or someone else's career, whatever, and, you know, getting to know them or getting to know other people, just, it's not what you think. And like, that's why we should just really try to focus on us and what ourselves and what we're doing, and like just keep your head down and work. And it ends up, you know, I truly believe everything happens for a reason, and, you know, your path is already kind of planned out for you.
I love it. And I love that you're conscious of that too. That's awesome. So your time in Tokyo, how was that whole experience for you?
It was interesting. I was born there, and I go there every year because, like I mentioned, my mom is from there. But living there is so different. It was such a different experience than I expected, but not necessarily in a bad way or good way. It was just different in general. Mm-hmm. But it was a learning experience for me because that was my first time living alone. I always had like roommates in college. And I learned a lot about like the other side of my culture. And there was a lot of tests for me.
Okay.
Just with like patience and like, you know, I don't fluently speak, and also the culture is so different. So there was just a lot of times where I was, you know, stressed out or frustrated, and I had to really just kind of chill out because it was hard. And then, you know, I have grandparents that live there, but they were living at the time like 45 minutes away from me, and like also I didn't want to bother them, and I really wanted to try to like make it there on my own. Yeah. So yeah, it was testing. I also like was in a relationship there, and like dating there is very different than here.
Like, what are some cultural norms for dating over there?
I don't even know. Like, and also the person that I ended up dating ended up also being Japanese, but not like from Australia. So it's like we had the same, like I'm Japanese, but I grew up in America, and he's Japanese, but grew up in Australia. So like we both had this like kind of Western mentality living in Japan. So it wasn't necessarily a super Japanese, I guess, relationship. But I mean, it is different there. I can't think specifically how, but it is different. And I also just feel like my personality is very American. Like, that's what people would tell me. So I think Japanese women tend to be a little bit more like timid and just like soft-spoken. That's a generalization, but you know, overall, that's what people would tell me, is I'm just like very strong-minded and like American. Yeah,
like, okay, so that's the main kind of difference between like probably how the...
Yeah, I think so. And like also Japan's really traditional, so I feel like a lot of the, and it does change. It is changing, but yeah, like a lot of the things that I feel like maybe they expect in relationships and stuff is just like different for someone like me.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's probably different in every country for the most part, you know what I mean? And especially like on another hemisphere of the planet, it's going to be like a lot different.
Yeah, exactly. So that was like a culture shock for me too. I was like, how do I like date here? But yeah, it was a really good learning experience, and I'm really appreciative because, like I said, I got to kind of connect with my other side more and spend time with my grandparents on that side. And yeah, I learned a lot about myself because I was just, the whole year was challenging.
So yeah, you definitely don't regret it then, right?
No, I don't. And I've even considered like, would I move back? Because there's a lot of benefits about living there. Just like when it comes to like insurance and like things like that, there's a lot of benefits. But I think if I moved there, I would want things to be a little bit different. Like I would want to maybe work for an American company there, or like, you know, I would just want to do things a little bit different. I got you.
And that was what, like 5 years ago when you lived there. So everything has changed, even probably so for different. You know what I mean? Like life experiences. Yeah. So you moved back to California, right?
Yes.
What was the first like introduction to working in the music industry for you?
So I had been friends with Esta, like just from going to shows. Like I said, I went to Cal State Fullerton, so I'd go to a bunch of selection shows. I would be in like Santa Ana at the time, and just like through mutual friends, which eventually we'll get into Joyce, but Joyce and I have been friends since we were like before middle school. We've been friends for a really long time.
Oh, so she's from the Chula Vista area too?
She is.
Okay.
Yeah, we went to the same middle school together, and like my brother and her went to the same preschool. And yeah, so I had known her for a long time, and so she obviously was in that like YouTube community, so I was like meeting a lot of people through her. So I had just known Esta for a while, and then we were like obviously friends through social media. So when I came back from Japan, I was just like, I feel like maybe I should try tapping into the music, because I had already done, you know, like journalism thing and the stylist thing, and I was like, maybe I should try. I love music. I've always loved music and felt connected to it, but I never thought about the business side of it. I know I'm not like an artist, so I was like, maybe the business side of it.
So you just wanted to be involved with music in some facet.
Yeah.
And the artist management was like a way that you saw into it.
I didn't even know about the management thing yet. I just was like, how can I work in the music industry? And when I would look up the jobs, I'm like, there's so many jobs. So Facts. My thing was like, let me try one thing to figure out if I like it, and then I can maneuver like after that. So I had just hit him up, and I was like, do you need help? And he was like, actually, I do need help. Like things were really picking up for him at that time with touring. Like he was touring so much, and he already had an agent. 2 managers. Like, he had
Damn.
a whole team, you know, and then like obviously being a part of Selection, like he had that backing as well. So he had people, but he was like, yeah, I would just like would love someone to help me, like with organization of just like, you know, little things. So it was like an assistant. So I came on as an assistant in like July of 2015.
Okay.
And then that was the beginning of everything. That just like grew it all.
Wow. So you weren't so intentional with like wanting to be what you are now. It was just like, let me just try this out and see what happens. And
I had no idea. People would be like, you would be a good agent. You would be a good this. You'd be a good promoter. I'm like, I don't even know what these things are. I'm just going to get in and like figure out what I like and what I'm good at, you know? Because even like at first I thought I wanted to be an A&R. Now I always tell people, I'm like, I could never be an A&R. Like, I love music, but I just feel like I don't have the specific. I feel like A&Rs need like this specific ear, like very, very specific. And I'm just like, that's just not me, you know? But for so long, I was like, maybe I could be an A&R.
For the people listening and watching that don't know, what's the difference between an A&R and an artist manager?
So an A&R pretty much is gonna like assemble the project in like sonically. So they're gonna find the producers and the songwriters, and like they're gonna just create the sound. With a manager or like a product manager, they're gonna like make sure all the logistics for the album and everything, and like the marketing and the rollout plan are all good. But the A&R is pretty much in charge of the music.
Right.
And that's obviously a heavy job. That's the whole point of the career. So I just feel like you have to have a specific ear, like knowing like this songwriter could be up next or this producer could be up next. And also not just that, but what is going to work for this artist, you know, like not everybody can, you know, building the sound is really important. So like not everyone can do a certain sound, or not everyone wants to do a certain sound. So
you have to treat every artist differently because each artist brings something different to the table.
For sure. Like and then that's also like A&Rs for different genres, you know? So, I was just like, I don't think, and even just knowing the technicalities about records, like, I don't know. I don't even know how to get into it.
It's like a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And you really, you have to know. You have to know. I feel like that's a very, very important job. Every job is, you know, it means a lot, but that is like a very important job. So
it seems like a role where it's like you probably need to have like some good amount of experience in the music industry in order to take on that role and be successful in it. Like maybe later down the line, once you've like had your feet wet in these different roles, right?
I feel like yes and no, because I've met some like really hungry kids who are just obsessed with like, you know, looking at liner notes and like seeing who produced something, seeing the credits, and like they're so hungry and they're just like, you know, observing who's up next when it comes to producing and songwriting, and they are really good. So sometimes I'm like, wow, this kid who's, you know, 20 years old is better than like some high up A&Rs that I know. So I really feel like it's just loving music and having that good ear.
Okay.
Yeah. But for sure, like with experience, then you are more exposed to more talent. So you have a bit of upper hand there.
Yeah. And sometimes it's kind of like who you know, right? Like maybe if you find the right artists and just stay with them, you could probably...
For sure. I think that's a case for a lot of people.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like for any role too, like there's a few people that I know where they started as just the friend, but then they're like, oh, I'm good at taking pictures. So then they just took pictures of that artist, which is their friend, forever. And then now the artist is huge. And then, you know, that happens a lot.
Do you think that could be a double-edged sword too? Because I've heard of a lot of talented artists hiring their friends just simply because they're a friend, but it may not be a good fit for their career and ends up kind of backfiring, right?
Yeah, I have that experience really with everyone that I work with, like not in a bad way, but just like seeing both sides of it. Because like I mentioned, I was friends with Esta before, and then I've been childhood friends with Joyce, and I managed another artist before, and yeah, we were friends before that too. So it's like bittersweet.
Right.
There's lots of benefits because you trust that person and they really know you. But, you know, sometimes you take things more personal, or maybe you're a little more lax because you do know that you're friends with them. So I feel like there's, you know, positives and negatives.
Right. What are some of the roles that you have as an artist manager for Esta and Joyce Wrice?
I always tell people I feel like it's a really well-rounded job because you're the manager, but you're also, I mean, you juggle a lot of different positions. You're like, sometimes you're a therapist, sometimes you're like, if someone's not available, sometimes you're like an assistant. Like, it depends, but I think that, you know, you have to be well-rounded. But specifically, I don't know. There's tons of things. Just making sure, like, I also feel like it depends on the level, right? So if the artist is really big, like, you have a bigger team, so there's not less that you have to do, but you just have people delegated for each role.
Right, okay.
Whereas, like, when the artist is still developing, like I said, like, sometimes I am the hair and makeup too,
really?
you know? So, like, it really depends. But yeah, it varies. It varies depending on the level of the artist, and also it varies depending on male or female, because female is just a lot more upkeep. I think.
Why is that?
I've just noticed, like, you know, hair, makeup, and styling, like, guys have it too, but it's just so different. It's a lot more costly with females.
Okay.
And just, like, little things like nails, eyelashes, you know, skincare, which men should be doing skincare too, but it's just, like, really, really big thing for females. Yeah, it just, and I think too, it's kind of a societal thing, but people expect women they just expect a certain look from women, and that is expensive.
To create that look.
Yes.
And
to maintain that look consistently.
That's true.
It's very expensive, whereas, like, I don't even know, what's a good example? I don't know, any male artist, something they could throw on jeans and a t-shirt, but, like, they're good. Like, that's their tour outfit.
You don't need to schedule nail and hair and makeup and all that.
It doesn't take, and I know some guys, you know, their grooming takes a long time and they're, like, meticulous and stuff, but overall, like, if I'm making a generalization, it's significantly more expensive and time consuming.
When you put it that way, that makes sense. I never really thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really different. And, but it's, you know, it's fine. Cause then there's also females who are like, I'm, like, kind of low maintenance and I don't need all of that too.
Right.
So it depends.
Got it. It's a situation by situation basis. What are some things that you didn't know about before working in artist management that you figured out quickly after starting this role with Esta?
I think it's the same thing that I realized about styling, which is it's over glamorized and it's not what people think it is.
Okay.
So, I mean, even just, like, I'm from San Diego, right? And, like, a lot of my friends that I grew up with, like, they ended up being, you know, nurses or real estate agents, like, you know, very, like, great jobs.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, they can stay in San Diego and just, you know, have a pretty, like, 9-to-5 life. But when I, like, come home, they, like, think I have this, like, fascinating, like, amazing life, and I'm just like, it's actually not, like, what you think at all. So I feel like people's perception of it is really different than what it really is.
Why do you think that is? Like, is it social media that glamorizes, like, the fact that you're connected to an artist, or the idea that you're connected to an artist, so you must be living their lifestyle too?
I think it's social media, but I even felt that way before I was in it, and I didn't have social media growing up. So I think it's just media in general. Like, because even an artist's life, something I realize is not as glamorized as people think.
Yep.
Like, people think artists have it all because they have success and fame and money and whatever else, but it's like sometimes what you have to trade in for that is just really, like, I don't know, is it worth it? Like, it's different for everyone, right? But sometimes it can be, especially like how now we do have social media and like people coming at you and the trolls and things like that. It's like bullying. It can be a lot. So I don't know, is like all that stuff worth it sometimes? I'm not sure. So it depends, but I feel like it's all perception.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one thing, is that it's not as glamorous as it seems. And then also just, I don't know, what I was saying earlier, like relationships. I think before I thought like, oh, the kids that went to college for like music management or like, whatever, music business, and they work at they were interning at these major labels and stuff from the age of whatever, that they have this advantage. But I really think it's about relationships. So kids that I know who didn't go to school, they never like studied or read any like music 101, like they're just really good at maintaining relationships. They're doing really well. And
that will take you a lot farther than having those fancy internships when you're in college.
I feel like, even through the internships, you can build relationships, but I feel like that, like even just like burning bridges or, just keeping good relationships with people that you admire and like having a mentor too. I feel like that really goes a long way. Did you have a mentor? I technically didn't, but I do consider this one person as my mentor, and that's just because anytime I ever had questions or anytime I was like doubting certain things, he would just kind of like guide me and give me good advice. Okay. So yeah, I kind of consider him my mentor in a sense. Got you. Yeah. Okay. So at what time in your career did you start managing for Joyce Wrice? So after working with Esta for like, I don't remember if it was like 6 months or a year, Joyce was already doing music like before that, but she was just like, I don't need a manager. She's also a Leo, so it's a bit of a like, I could do it. I'm good. Like I could do it by myself. She was like ready to build a team. And that's when I was like, I really been learning a lot working with Esta as an assistant. And, I've been learning about the touring world a lot. And I really feel like I can do this. Like, I feel like I can manage you. Because at first I was thinking about being an assistant for Joyce. And the friend who I'm saying is like a mentor was like, why would you do that? Like, why would you be an assistant if you've already been an assistant for a little bit? And like, you know everything about her. Like, you could totally manage her. And even then I felt really insecure about that. Like, I was just like, I don't think that I can do that. Like, I don't know anything about being a manager. And he manages someone that's really big. And he was just like, I didn't know anything about being a manager. I literally, used to work at this place, like nothing to do with music. And I just fell into this job. And it's really, he was like, a lot of people don't know what they're doing. It's like learning day by day. Oh, okay. Yeah. So he really encouraged me to like push to do that. And I was like, oh my gosh, even thinking of like, fully managing somebody was freaking me out. Is it making you uncomfortable? It was, but like after he said that, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And then I wanted her to trust me. That was the thing too, is like, she was just like, I don't know, because she had all these people asking her that are, they've been working in the industry and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of also cool because it's like she trusted me as like her friend to do it. Definitely. So yeah, that was like probably a year into like 2016. And there you go. It's like a relationship that you made when you were a teenager that ended up paying off like being something else. Yeah. And like I said, there's benefits to it because she knows that I know what she likes and she could trust me. And like, you know, I just feel like we get each other. And like other people have asked me too, like, hey, can you manage me? Or I'm looking for a team. And I just feel like I want to work with people that, you know, I feel like they can trust me and I can trust them. And also like only if I really, really like their music and like what they're about. And so I already knew that I felt that way about Joyce because I've known her for so long.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like it probably makes a difference between like, I don't know, because you have that pre-developed relationship with that person.
Yeah.
So not that you wouldn't put effort into somebody you didn't know, but it's just like you have a emotional connection and emotional drive that's going to make you work that much harder for Joyce. You know what I mean? Because that's your friend.
Yeah. And I really feel like that's what makes a difference because, you know, it's easy. Like even people have told me before, like, oh, like you should, you know, stop working with these people and then you can work at this company and then you're going to have like really big clients and stuff like that. But I've always felt like such a connection to the people that I work with because I cared about them before.
Yeah.
And it's not like my intent is not to, you know, like make money off of them or just for them to be famous or anything. It's just because I want to help them kind of fulfill their dream. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I don't know. I find fulfillment in doing that.
Okay. I was going to ask you next, like, what do you love most about what you do? But it kind of sounds like you just answered that.
Yeah, I mean, it is that, but it's also working with people. And, like, I think it's kind of, you know how they say if you are doing a job that doesn't feel like work, then it is probably it for you, like that's the right one
for sure.
That's kind of how I feel. Like there was times where I'm like, I can't believe this is my work. Like definitely times where I'm like, this is work. But there's other times where, you know, like with touring, another thing that I don't know if you know, but I like consider myself pretty much like just as much of a tour manager as I do an artist manager. Uh-huh. So like when I'm on tour and stuff, sometimes we're in Italy and we're just eating pasta and I'm just thinking like after a show and I'm just thinking like this is our work, like this is so amazing that we get to travel here and like meet fans from across the world and like put on a show for them and they're so grateful because, you know, not a lot of artists maybe come to their small town and like just like things like that where I'm like this is incredible, just meeting new people and it being connected to what I love, which is music. Like that's a blessing.
And I'm sure it makes like the grunt work or whatever it is that you have to do like worth it. You know what I mean? Because you get those payoffs.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. How has your role changed like pre-COVID to now? Because obviously there's not touring and everything's a different dynamic. So what's changed for you?
At the beginning of COVID, I was just like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Because like I mentioned, I have been managing artists this whole time, but I've just really, really, really enjoyed touring. And I spent all of 2019 touring. So I was really bummed and I was like, how am I going to do this? And also one thing, I don't know if people know, but like the bulk of a lot of artists' money is through touring. Yeah. So it's not necessarily, depending on who it is, but it's not necessarily from music. It's not necessarily from, you know, whatever you think it is. It's a lot from touring. So I was worried and I was scared, but I was kind of like, okay, we just got to go with it. And I think everyone, you know, took the time to find out how they could turn things virtual. And like, that's kind of what I did in the beginning of COVID. Try to figure out like different platforms that will do virtual shows and different ways to make it creative, different ways to still keep like fan engagement, even though we can't physically be with them. And yeah, I really spend a lot of my time figuring out how we can utilize TikTok and like, you know, like do different things to still stay connected. And I think one of the biggest parts of that is being consistent with content. So even if that's a, you know, self filmed piece of content or whatever it is, like just being consistent, because, you know, people that really big fans and like people that are really about you, like they're gonna keep tuning in as long as you keep feeding them
Yeah,
stuff.
and if you think about it, if you put it that way, the content that you're putting out now is gonna pay off when you start touring, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like you're keeping your fans engaged,
Yeah.
and when you start touring again, they're gonna go to your shows, right?
That's the plan, is like having everyone know all the music and be obsessed with it and be into it. So then when like touring comes, like they know all the words. They're like, you know, they've already felt out the project or the single or whatever it is, and they're excited about it. Not knowing when you can go on tour and like trying to elongate that is stressful, but you know, that's why you just have to keep putting out content and just getting creative, even like with merch, and like we've done contests.
I love Esta's merch, by the way. I just want to plug that really
cute.
quick. Yeah, he has. I love like the colorway of it and everything. It's dope.
Yeah, you guys should go get that.
Yeah.
It's very cute.
Link in the description. Go check it out.
Yeah, he's really good at that stuff. Like, not only is he great at like DJing and producing, like he's really into fashion and clothing and stuff like that. So, you know, that's always like another outlet for him.
Yeah, for sure. When do you think touring's gonna, or not touring, but live shows are gonna come back sometime this year, or like maybe by the end of this year?
I mean, I have some gigs booked, so I hope that they are like,
Yeah.
They're saying the end of the year, or like fall. I don't know what's gonna happen, because you know, even people were saying like last year before things were getting worse, people were saying, okay, like in April of this year, but like obviously that's not going to be able to happen. So I hope that it does come back at the end of the year. I definitely think it'll be different. Like from what I heard, you know, they're going to have capacities like lowered and stuff like that, and just more restrictions. And even some companies talking about like having to provide proof that you have the vaccine, like all these things. So I'm not sure what it's going to be like. I think it's going to be different, but I'm really, really excited for that, because I feel like it's going to be, I don't know, we're just going to appreciate it so much more after not having it for a year and a half.
Can you imagine the energy at like the first live show? Oh,
I've been thinking about it. I'm like, it's going to be so, I already get like chills at certain shows. So like that first time back and like being in the room, because it's like even watching a virtual show, like the energy of the other people is not there. It's just not the same.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like it's going to be great. And I feel like people who didn't go to shows before are going to go now, because they're going to realize, wow, you know, like maybe I took that for granted or something.
Yeah, I got a lot of time to make up for.
Yeah, literally.
All the shows that you didn't get to go to for the past year.
Yeah, or even new artists you discovered during COVID, you know?
Very true.
Like a lot of cool music came out, and
like Giveon, for example, like, you know what I mean? He was doing some small shows, but now he's like a superstar. So once he starts touring, it's going to be like, it's going to be a good scene for him.
Yeah. People have even talked about how like, you know, where you were pre-pandemic to like now, you could be a completely different level. So yeah, who knows? The small rooms may change to big rooms.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
Switching gears here a little bit. I know you're into like health and wellness, right? Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I got exposed to like Reiki healing and things like that from my good friend. Well, kind of through Andres, who we were talking about, who's one of my best friends. But also he introduced me to Talia, which is my other good friend. And like through her, I've just really tapped into that world. Yeah.
Of just like meditation and like energy. Is she the one that does the sound bats?
Sound bats. She's incredible. She does a lot of different things, and I haven't even like been able to experience all of them, but she's so great. And I feel like when I started going, this was pre-COVID, when I started going to her classes, I don't know, it changed my life. Like, it's really great. And it inspired me to try to like meditate myself, which has always been challenging for me. And just take that like mental health more seriously. Yeah.
You know what I've realized though, this like entire conversation is like the reason why you're such a good manager, you're like constantly giving people their flowers. Like throughout this entire time, you've been like giving shouts out to all your friends and what they do. And it's like subliminal. Like you're not even trying to do it, I feel like, but you are.
I mean, I love working with my friends and like putting on my friends. And like, I just feel like, why not, you know, especially if they do. And I'm surrounded by all these incredible people who do totally different things, but just like, I don't know, coming together and like working with all of them in different positions is just, like I said, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like hanging out with your friends.
And it doesn't hurt that they're like really good at what they do too.
What they do, yeah, exactly. So I mean, I love that. That's one thing about Andres is like, we're friends, but like we could do different things together, and I'm just like, this is awesome, because I want to have people around me that I care about and that I trust, and also that I'm inspired by. Yeah,
for sure. He's like you too. He loves helping people. Like he's just here to serve, it seems like. Yeah. So shouts out to Andres.
Yes.
What are some, to go back to the energy and meditation, what are some practices that you kind of do, not maybe in your everyday life, but consistently to keep yourself in a good place, energy and spiritually?
So that's something I've been practicing during COVID, because I feel like, honestly, before I was so on the go that I didn't even think about it. Like, I would try to be like, okay, I need to have like a mental health day, or like a, you know, just 5 minutes or whatever, but I was just so nonstop. And that's why this 2020 was just really, I think, eye-opening for everyone, because we kind of got to slow down and look at our lives and like kind of decipher, like, how am I feeling? Like, am I happy with what I'm doing? Like, how can I be better? What are the relationships around me like so many things. And so that was one thing that I really tried to focus on. And I mean, I'm not necessarily doing something every day, but I just will do little things here and there. Like, if I want to say no to doing something, like a plan or whatever I made, like, I'm going to do that because I need that time for me. Mm-hmm. Also, just like doing the little things that I like for like mental health, like just care, like upkeep. You know, sometimes I'm like, no, I shouldn't do this because I have so much stuff I have to do. And I'm like, no, like, you need to also reset, you know? Yeah. So even if that's as simple as, you know, I want to go to like my favorite coffee shop and like get this, and just like chill and not answer my phone. Like, if I want to do that, I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to do that. Like, that's going to help me like feel better for this week. Like, I'm going to go ahead and do that, you know? Yeah. Another thing that like Joyce brought to my attention, and I'm like, this is so true, is just, we're supposed to be like physically grounding ourselves every day, like putting our skin, like bottom of our feet, like to the dirt or like concrete or grass, like every day. Like, and we don't do that, like, you know, because I feel like as kids we would do that, maybe, you know, being outside, but we don't do that. So even just like going outside and just like feeling earth and like feeling grass, feeling that, you know, touch to touch is like a really big difference, and it helps me.
I never thought about that. I'm gonna have to try it out. Yeah. There's not many places for me to put my feet on the ground in downtown LA, but I'll go to a park or something like that.
I live on a big hill and there's no like, but I'm just like, sometimes I'll go to a park or like I'll go on a walk. Oh yeah, that's another thing I do. I walk like the Silver Lake Reservoir, so if you see me out there. Ooh, okay. I go there and I'll just like walk by myself, or I'll like listen to an audiobook or something like that. But even after that, there's like a little park there, and I'll just like go and just like take off my shoes and just, you know, connect.
Enjoy. Yeah. You have you ever been to Elysian Park?
I have. Is that the one with all the palm trees?
Yeah, it's by Dodger Stadium, like really close. Yeah,
it's by the COVID testing.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody knows what the COVID test is now. Yeah.
Literally, I've been there before for a birthday, like actually like maybe a month or two ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's a cool spot. I love Elysian Park. For me, like a place where I kind of reset and get energy from is the beach, for sure. Yeah. Like the beach, I can just go there and just sit there, and like I'll leave feeling like recharged and like fulfilled for some reason.
A lot of people say that, and that's another thing that I was able to kind of experience during COVID. Like, we're so fortunate to have the beach, the mountains, like we have everything, the desert, we have everything so close. And sometimes, like I said, take it for granted. Like, a lot of the trips that I took this year were semi-local, you know? Yeah. Like, just trying to experience things that I don't normally do. But the beach is one of those. I'm like, I need to go to the beach more.
Yeah, so something that I started 2020 was going to the beach a lot because I realized exactly what you said, that like, oh, it's right there. Why don't I just go?
Yeah.
Same thing goes for like live music too. In California, there's so many live shows and festivals that like other states, it's not like this.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And people point that out to me. They'll be like, oh my God, you live in California. Like, oh, do you go to Venice Beach every day? And I'm like, no, I definitely don't go to Venice Beach every day. But like, it makes me realize like what people think, you know, about it.
It's true.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Yeah, LA is very glamorized to people, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. It is.
So you also are into baking, right?
I am into baking. That's a new
Talk
thing.
about that. It looks fire. Your baked goods.
I should have brought you something. I didn't think when I bake, like for long periods of time, I like will take long breaks and be like, I don't even want to look at the oven because it's just like, whew, it's a lot. It's a lot. But I do love it. I've always liked to bake, but I started baking like intensely during COVID just because I feel like everyone was like, remember there was like a banana bread, like, I don't know if you know this, but there was like a banana bread craze where like all the grocery stores were out of flour because people were like obsessively baking banana bread and stuff like shortages. That. Yeah. So I just started baking because that's also another like therapeutic thing for me.
Yeah, definitely.
And so in the beginning of COVID, I started baking like these key lime pies, and I would just drop them off to friends because I only bake for like the process of it. Like I wasn't baking
like
10
for monetary
pies to eat, or like even just like to eat them. Like I was just baking them because I enjoyed the process, and then I would give them to friends. And so I would keep doing this with cookies or, you know, the key lime pies or like banana bread, things like that. And people were like, this is actually good. Like, can I have more? Or like, oh, I want to bring this to my friend. Or like, you know, you should start selling this. And after so many people said that, I was just like, okay, maybe I should actually do it. Mm-hmm. And then I started taking it seriously like a little bit before Thanksgiving because I was hesitant. I was like, like I was doing it since March, but I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. So I started taking it more seriously right before Thanksgiving, and then it's just been really successful, which is great.
Yeah, I peeped the little website you have for it. It's like you got like a whole menu of like options, right? I
did. Yeah, for Christmas I was like, let me do a website, because for Thanksgiving I just did it through DMs, and that was a lot for me. Like there was some people where they were like, hey, I'm coming to pick up my order, and I was just like, oh my God, I like missed one, you know, because there was so many messages, and people would also just like ask me last minute, can you squeeze it in? So when I made the website, I was like, let me like limit it, because I was sometimes doing 10, you know, pies or cakes a day, and like I'm just one person in one apartment with one oven, and like I don't have like a commercial kitchen or assistants or anything, so it would be a lot. And like each cake takes like an hour and a half.
Oh, it does?
You can't make them like with my oven, because it's small, I can't make two at the same time.
Oh yeah.
So I'm making one by one by one, and you know I can't even leave my house because I have to make sure that I'm here when it's back. So
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it was a lot.
I didn't think about that. What's it called? Like
Kondo Bakery.
Kondo Bakery. Why? Yeah. What's kondo mean?
So kondo is a Japanese word, and it pretty much means like an undescribable feeling. So like I feel like in the Japanese language there's a lot of words like that where like we don't have like an English translation, but it means like, you know, when you see something or experience something and you're just like, oh my gosh, like it pretty much like takes your
sublime
breath away.
Like I think sublime is like that. Yeah, like you're left in awe.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Like, or just left so impressed. Like that's how I mean that's a little like dramatic, but that's how I want people to feel, you know, like, because I also feel like food is so powerful, you know, and like even like the gift of food, when people give you whatever, like any other tangible gift, you're like, oh my gosh, thank you. But when someone gives you food, especially that they made, there's just something about that that I feel like is so special. And so, yeah, I want people to feel that way. And that's why. And I wanted to be connected to like, you know, my Japanese heritage also. So I was finding a way to try to do that. And I just really like that word. I didn't know about that word actually, but I was walking in Silver Lake Reservoir with my Japanese friend, and she was talking to me, and I was telling her, oh, yeah, I'm trying to find a name. And then she had told me, and she was like, this word means blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, I love that. And that was just...
I like it too, because it makes you like want to know what that word is, because if you're American, you probably haven't seen that before. Exactly. You know what I mean? So like it makes you actively go search it up.
Yeah.
And I like the meaning of it too.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, of course. All right. So we're going to end it pretty soon here, but do you have any advice for anybody who's listening or watching this right now, who's trying to get into the music industry or kind of wants to get to where you're at right now?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people ask me this question, and I say it all the time. I said earlier, like, just start building relationships. Like, even people who DM me, like, I try to always respond and like answer whatever question they have or be of assistance to them in whatever way I can. But I just feel like try to find a mentor and like try to build relationships, and you know, it'll kind of just go from there. I really, really feel like, you know, like we just talked about my story, like I had no plan really, or like I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I feel like I kind of just let people, you know, they helped guide me in a way. Yeah. So I feel like that, and to just, I guess, also be innovative. Like I was mentioning, some of the people that I feel like are really young and just like killing it, they're just trying new things and being really, they're like risk takers. And that's something that, you know, I think I wish I did a little bit more growing up. I was kind of like hesitant, like not sure, but yeah, like just be a risk taker.
Take risks. Be a risk taker. You gotta risk it to get the biscuit.
Exactly.
To get the Condo Bakery biscuit.
Exactly.
Let's go. All right, Jasmine. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, this was a pleasure to have you, and I'm gonna continue to watch your journey, and I'm excited for what's to come for you.
Thank you so much.
You deserve everything you have right now. So
Thank you.
Hope you know that.
I appreciate that.
Of course, from Ambiance, Levi, Jasmine, peace and blessings to everybody.
Bye.
We out.